Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're embarking on a really beautiful, intellectually honest exploration of exactly how Muslims connect with the divine. Now, whether you're coming to this purely out of curiosity or maybe you have a few preconceptions you've picked up from the media, this explainer is designed to be a warm, clear, and very direct look into the theology of Islam. We're going straight to the source material today to unpack the incredibly direct relationship a Muslim strives to have with the creator of the universe.
Okay, let's dive into this. To unpack this rationally, we're going to follow a simple roadmap today. First up, the central invitation. Second, the logical argument. Third, addressing the elephant in the room regarding common misunderstandings. And finally, a takeaway for a seeker.
Section 1, the central invitation. The absolute core premise of our source material, and really the entire foundation of Islamic belief, is this beautiful concept that God is entirely, immediately accessible to everyone. To really get this, we need to look at an Arabic term that the source discusses extensively, Tawassul. In very simple terms, Tawassul means seeking closeness to God directly. It's the act of looking for the absolute best, most sincere way to approach the Creator. And the vital takeaway here is that true Tawassul in Islam is all about building that bridge yourself, without ever needing a middleman to carry your voice.
And this brilliantly illustrates the point. This is a famous verse from the Quran, quoted in the source. God says, "If my servants ask you about me, I am near. I answer the call of the caller when they call upon me." Notice what is beautifully absent here. God doesn't tell Prophet Muhammad to say, "Tell them I am near." No, God shifts the pronoun and speaks directly to the individual, "I am near." The source really emphasizes this, that God answers directly, bypassing any need for the prophet or literally anyone else to speak on his behalf when it comes to hearing your prayers.
So what does this mean in practice? Well, it's a profound empowerment of the individual. Unlike spiritual systems that might require a priest, a confession booth, or a saint to pass along your message, Islam empowers you to speak straight to the ultimate source. You don't need a spiritual VIP pass. The poorest, most isolated person on earth has the exact same unmediated access to God's ear as the most renowned religious scholar.
Section 2, the logical argument.
So if the line to God is literally always open, how do you actually use it? Well, the source outlines 3 logically sound, really beautiful methods to elevate your direct prayers. The first is praising God's attributes, acknowledging His majesty before asking for what you need. It's kind of like warmly greeting a friend before asking a favor. The second is using your own hidden good deeds as a testament to your sincerity. And the third is asking a living, righteous person to pray for you. Let's look a bit closer at that second one, because it is incredibly profound.
The source highlights the fascinating power of the hidden deed. Just imagine doing a secret act of goodness, something done strictly for God with zero public recognition. Nobody saw you, nobody praised you. The source argues that these hidden actions, completely free from ego or the desire for human applause, are actually your most powerful asset when you're in a crisis and need to ask God for help.
The lecture gives some incredible historical examples of this. It mentions a famous companion of the Prophet named Bilal. Despite suffering extreme public torture for his faith, Bilal's most cherished act wasn't his public suffering. It was a simple, private routine of washing and praying quietly where absolutely no one could see him. Sincerity matters so much more than public display. The source also tells this famous parable of 3 men trapped in a cave by a massive boulder. They didn't pray to a saint to rescue them. Instead, each man called out to God directly by mentioning a secret, purely sincere good deed he'd done in the past. And miraculously, the boulder moved. Your private sincerity is literally your ultimate spiritual leverage.
Now, this brings up a very natural question. Is it ever okay to ask others to pray for you? The source clearly says yes, but with a logical boundary. Asking a living, righteous friend to make a prayer for you is perfectly fine and actually encouraged. It's a really beautiful act of community. The source particularly notes that it's best to ask them to pray for your spiritual growth and eternal well-being, rather than just, worldly material gains.
Section 3, addressing the elephant in the room.
If you're learning about Islam from the outside, there are definitely certain misconceptions that can act as barriers. So let's tackle a major one head-on, with patience and clarity. The biggest question is usually, do Muslims worship Prophet Muhammad or perhaps historical saints? So the crucial point is this. Muslims have an immense, profound love and respect for Prophet Muhammad, but they absolutely, strictly do not worship him, nor do they worship any human being, living or dead.
To understand why this boundary is so strict, we have to look at the term shirk. Shirk simply means associating partners with God's power. In Islamic monotheism, this is the ultimate red line. It's the boundary that fiercely protects God's exclusive right to be worshipped and ask for supernatural help. To pray to a human being for divine intervention is considered shirk because it assigns a power to a human that belongs entirely, 100% to the Creator.
We really must visually and conceptually separate the idea of a deeply revered human messenger from the concept of a divine middleman who grants wishes. Muhammad is celebrated as the final messenger who delivered God's word, an exemplary human being, but he is not divine. He doesn't sit on a cloud intercepting prayers and deciding which ones to pass on to God.
And this logically explains why the source warns so strongly against praying to the deceased at graves. Sometimes people see this rule and think, oh, does that mean Muslims disrespect the dead? Not at all. Avoiding prayers to saints or historical figures at their graves is entirely about protecting that majestic, direct relationship between you and God. Asking a deceased person to grant you a child or cure an illness crosses the line from respecting a historical figure into treating them like a deity.
This leads us to another vital concept mentioned in the lecture, ghulu. Ghulu means overstepping boundaries in religious praise. The source explains that historically, extreme overpraising is exactly what led previous nations to accidentally turn their righteous people and prophets into gods. It starts as love, turns into extreme exaggeration, and eventually morphs into worship. Islam places strict guardrails to prevent exactly this.
In fact, Prophet Muhammad himself was incredibly vigilant about this. He explicitly told his followers, "Do not overpraise me. I am his servant, so say, the servant of God and his messenger." He displayed strict humility and actively fought against any attempt by his followers to elevate him beyond his human status. His entire mission was to keep all focus, all awe, and all worship directed entirely toward God alone.
Section 4. Takeaway for a seeker.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it synthesizes everything we've unpacked from this source material. What is truly beautiful here is just the sheer liberating simplicity of it. Pure Islamic monotheism clears away all the clutter. It removes the confusing hierarchies, the spiritual gatekeepers, and the complex rituals of mediation. It simply leaves you with an unmediated, wide-open line to the creator of the universe.
So, the core actionable insights from our explainer today are these. First, absolutely no intermediaries are required. You are fully authorized to speak to God right now. Second, your private sincerity, those quiet, hidden moments of goodness, is your absolute greatest spiritual asset. And third, the Creator is always near. In Islamic theology, you are never locked out, you are never put on hold, and you never ever need someone else to translate your heart's desires to the divine.
Which brings us to our final thought. The source paints a picture of a God who is vastly powerful, yet intimately close. It's a profound shift in perspective. If the creator of the universe is always listening directly to you, without any static, without any middleman, what will you say? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I truly hope this exploration has brought you clarity and sparked your curiosity.